It's your turn, Moffat. So I had to wait until the last episode that the man wrote has aired. It did, and now it is Moffat's turn for the same treatment I gave to Russell T Davies before. Top and bottom 10 episodes written by him. So we're going to start positive. We're going to start with the top 10. Now, let's remind you of the ground rules here. First off, I am only considering episodes that he is the sole credited writer on. I'm not messing with stuff where he had a co-writer because I don't want to have to try and parse out what his contributions were, what the other writers' contributions were, not messing with any of that. So only things that he wrote himself are up for this. Also a reminder, I count two-parters as a single story. And I gotta tell you guys, compiling this list was a reminder to me that I know that his time as showrunner was not great for the show overall, but the episodes that he was actually solely responsible for, there's a lot of really good stuff on there. And I had a hard time coming up with this list. I have no doubt yours will be different from mine, but let's get going anyways with number 10, A Good Man Goes to War. There's a lot to love about this. I love the assembling of the team. We get the first introduction of a number of great characters. We get some fun callbacks to some characters that we've already seen. I love the emotional roller coaster of it, of the Doctor just showing up and just owning that place. Just Amelia Pond, get your coat, and just waltzes all over these people, confronting that woman, getting right in her face and telling her, good men don't need rules. This is not the day for you to find out why I have so many. And then to go from this, yeah, Doctor, get him, and just to have that sink of the baby realizing that they didn't win, but then to have it pick back up again with River coming back at the end. I didn't see that revelation. I've heard from other people that they saw it coming and they called it. Props to you. I didn't. I was surprised and touched and moved and excited by that revelation. And I think the moment itself plays beautifully. The music really underscores it terrifically. I just have a hell of a lot of fun with this episode. Number 9, Asylum of the Daleks. Now, I know from my own comment section, there are some people who really don't like this episode. I'm sorry, guys. I think this is a lot of fun. There's a lot I like about this, including the thing that everybody complains about, which is Amy and Rory having broken up since the last episode and then reconciling in this episode. I actually think it's really necessary because the damage that losing a child tends to do to relationships is often irreparable. The vast majority of couples who lose a young child don't stay together. And I feel like having them break up acknowledges the reality of that and the damage that that does to their link and their connection. But also, by having it happen basically between the previous episode and this one and having it just get resolved here means we acknowledge that this happened and this was part of their grieving process, was that they lashed out at each other. But we're also not going to have it happen over the course of the next few episodes where it's going to bog the whole thing down. So I like that. I love all the Daleks. I love that you can sum the premise up as the Daleks fire the Doctor at a planet and expect him to fix it. They say that in the episode itself, and I love that. There's a lot of just neat, nifty ideas. There's a lot of cool Easter eggs. And I know some people are like, oh, they just put the special weapons Dalek in there as fan service. I'm like, well, yeah, but they also don't stop the story dead to do it. It's there. If you recognize it, it's fun for you. It was fun for me. I enjoy this episode a lot. Number 8, The Day of the Doctor. There was a time where this was right up towards the top, but the shines kind of come off it a little bit as I have sort of spent more time with it. This is still really good, though. This is a really wonderful celebration of the Doctor's 50th. I love a good multi-Doctor story in the first place, and I do think this is a good one. I like the way that Tennant and Smith play off each other because they get along pretty quickly, which is actually atypical. The Doctor tends to get on his own nerves more often than not when we have these kind of stories. Of course, you've got the great, wonderful, and sadly departed John Hurt there to offer the grumpy annoyance. Now, when I did my ranking of Doctors, I did put him almost at the bottom. He was second to last, but that was just because, comparatively, he doesn't have as much to do. But if the character's going to be there in the way that he is, he was a great get because his presence does help elevate it. I love the embodiment of the Bad Wolf entity, and the way that Billy Piper plays that is phenomenal. I love that thing so much. And I like that the episode kind of throws you for a loop a little bit. It can be frustrating if you came in based on marketing thinking, we're going to see the Time War, and you don't. And it's not even really about taking on the Daleks. It ends up being in the whole middle about the Zygons, except that I actually think that plays into everything really nicely, and how dealing with this situation where it's complete brinksmanship, but finding the other solution, finding the other way, reminds the Doctor that he doesn't have to do the thing that he actually thought he did. There are other ways. There are other ways around it. In all the Doctor showing up, we get clips of all of them. We got our first look at Capaldi with the eyes and those attack eyebrows. And it's just, I think it is a wonderful celebration of this show and of this character. And I think it was a fitting episode for the 50th anniversary. Number 7, World Enough in Time and the Doctor Falls. Now, as I said, I do two-parters as one story. And as much as I kind of wish I could have separated these two, they are a legitimate two-parter. The story is not complete until we get both halves of this. And the reason I say that's unfortunate is, if I could deal with World Enough in Time on its own, it would be way higher on this list. It might even have a shot at number 1. Having to tie it to the Doctor Falls, which is still very good, and may have still even made the top 10, maybe like around 9 or 10. But having to link them together, I have to split the difference, and this is where it ends up. So, as a two-parter, the first half is stronger than the second half, but that first half, wow. Just the wonderful creeping nature of the Cybermen. And when I say creeping, I don't mean like generic creepy. I mean just the concept and the way it just slowly creeps this conversion of these people, and the way that it changes them and their society, slowly dawning on you as the watcher and slowly sinking in just how bad this is going to get. It's amazing, and I love Mr. Razor. The whole reveal with John Sim as the Master, I think, is one of the weak links. And again, it's not bad, but it's like, I'm not sure what it actually added a heck of a lot. But Missy is great. I love that. Even in The Doctor Falls, there are great moments. I love the Doctor pleading with the Master and with Missy, just be kind. I love that was sort of a lot of the final notes that Capaldi's Doctor went out on was pleading, just be kind. And I love his moments with Bill after she's been converted, and they're having conversations, and he has to admit that he can't save her, even though he said that he could. And when he said it, he thought that he could. It's wonderful. It's melancholy. It's tragic. It's creepy. This complete story, even though it starts better than it finishes, is really wonderful. Number 6. Blink. The test episode of Doctor Who, or at least what I consider to be the test episode. This is the episode that I recommend to people who don't know if they'd like this show, maybe aren't into normally this kind of thing. I have them watch this as a test, and I've had that bear out twice so far, including with my partner, who watched and was like, okay, yeah, I'll watch some more, and I'm now getting to show her other Doctor Who episodes, which is awesome and wonderful. But it is completely self-contained. You don't need to know anything going into it. But of course, even if you do, what you get is awesome. And the angels in this first appearance are terrifying, and this is masterfully filmed. It's got a terrific supporting cast, which most of the best Doctor Who episodes have. And not just Sally Sparrow, who's kind of the one that gets all the notes. Billy Shipton I really like, the policeman. And there's a wonderful, again, melancholy. I'll come back to that probably in some other ones as well, because I like that as a mood, to his death as an old man. And, watching this play out like just a straight up horror movie with the Doctor as a background feature. Man, this is tight. Number 5, The Night of the Doctor. I don't care if it's a short, it deserves its place on here. This thing is epically awesome. This is an amazing 7 minutes of entertainment that even if you've never seen Paul McGann before, and keep in mind, when I first saw this, I hadn't started getting into the audios, so I only knew him from the movie. So seeing him in this, watching him just own this part and own the screen, and he's he dies trying to save a woman who not only doesn't want his help, who hates him, and he still dies trying to save her. And his flippantness when dealing with his sisters when they bring him back, and you can see he's like clinging, he's trying to hold on to when what he does was fun, but this war is happening all around him and he can't run away from it anymore. And there's a really heaviness to the acceptance of him saying warrior and making that choice at the very end. I have such a hard time getting over how amazing this short is. Number 4, The 11th Hour. My favorite episode of Matt Smith's Doctor. Now, that might sound like a backhanded compliment, like, oh, first one was the best one, was all downhill from there. No, he had a lot of great stories, but there's just something about this first outing. There's something about the way he fits into Amy's life and the way that she reacts to him as a result of that, you know, even as a young woman, because he left her as a kid, she's kind of already over him and not nearly as highly enamored. She's kind of ticked at him, and I like that dynamic, and I like that it's right there right off the bat. I love Matt Smith, sort of his brain rushing and scrambling, you know, as he's trying to get a hold of his own thought process. I love the bits of humor where he's trying to find something to eat, but everything he tries just, fish fingers and custard. Of course! And then the build-up, we get to the end, he finally sheds the tatters of Tennant's costume. He puts on the bow tie and he walks through that image. Hello, I'm the Doctor. And I remember even the first time I saw it, I actually said out loud, yes, you are. And I love Matt Smith in this part. He came out swinging. This is a phenomenal introduction to him, to Amy. It's a great jumping on point if you don't want to start with Eccleston, if you want to start at a newer place. This is just a wonderful episode. Number 3, Silence in the Library and the Forest of the Dead. My favorite Tennant era episode. You might notice a pattern with these last 4. So, yeah, I have so much I love in this. I love Donna. She's my favorite companion. I like River, and I think she was wonderfully introduced. And her death at the end of this gains so much more poignancy after, you know, knowing more about her later. But even at the time, it was touching. This is one of those with a phenomenal supporting cast. A great chemistry to this cast with Proper Dave and Other Dave and Miss Evangelista. And everybody feels like they have an established dynamic. They don't feel like they exist simply mechanically for the sake of the plot. They feel like real people with real interactions and real relationships. And so many of my favorite episodes of Doctor Who have that. And this absolutely has that. The Vashta Nerada are creepy. It's a great concept. I love the Doctor saying, you're in the biggest library in history, look me up. That was a notion that got overplayed in later episodes, but this was really kind of the first time he put his foot down and pulled that card out, and it's awesome, and I love it. And there's tragedy to it when the simulation of those kids and she loses that, she sells the hell out of that. And then the triumph at the end of saving River Song. It's, again, that emotional roller coaster. This is another episode that has that. Number 2, The Empty Child and the Doctor Dances. My favorite 9th Doctor episode. Oh boy, this has everything. First off, The Empty Child. How creepy is that thing? Just as an image and just knocking, are you my mummy? And then beyond that, the more you learn about it, at least for me, it becomes creepier. Because the idea of this child with such a simple, relatable, understandable motivation to just find its mother that can and will destroy the world, either because it doesn't understand the damage that it's doing, or if it does understand it, it doesn't care because it's single-mindedly trying to find its mother like a child of that age would. It is terrifying to me. And then, of course, beyond that, we have the introduction of Jack Harkness, who just swaggers in and brings this whole swashbuckling element, which I think honestly plays best against Eccleston, who didn't have that going for him otherwise. Rose is really good at this. She's bouncing off both Eccleston and off of Harkness. Again, there's a really good supporting cast here, but I think ultimately, at the end of this, everybody lives. I mean, again, that's the show later developed a real aversion to letting anybody die, but just the way Eccleston screams that out. You feel the weight of all the times that not everyone lived and his joy that this time it worked. And it is the perfect capper to a nearly perfect two-parter. Oh yeah. So, fans of this channel probably know what is coming in at number 1. My favorite Peter Capaldi episode, Heaven Sent. And no, I don't count it as a two-parter with Hellbent, because even though it ended in a way that had to be picked up with a later one, it still tells a complete story of him in this castle trying to get out, and at the end he gets out. That story is done. The fact that it seeded the next one doesn't make it a two-parter, at least not in my mind. And as a solo piece of work, God, I've droned on about this episode before, but it is phenomenal. Capaldi by himself is amazing. Talking to himself, the whole going into his own mind palace and it even manages to capture moments of fun even as he's processing his grief over what happened to Clara, because we get lines like, I can't wait to see how I get out of this. And terrific moments like that, but you do feel the weight of his grief following him around the whole way, much in the same way that creature is stalking him, which is a wonderful, creepy image. That this castle, that it feels both confined and labyrinthine at the same time. It's like, he can't get out of this castle, but man, this thing is huge. How does he ever get around here? And then, I mentioned the emotional roller coaster. There is nothing that I have seen, not just in Doctor Who at all, that tops the emotional roller coaster this specific episode put me through. Because watching him get caught and die, and then seeing the loop start again, and then seeing it start again, and realizing it just keeps going, then he starts assigning up amounts of time onto this, and realizing that it's just going to keep going, and he's going to keep dying over and over and over again. And the sinking feeling of that, of just realizing, oh my God, what is going on? How can he possibly get out of this? And thinking, like, maybe, is somebody going to rescue him? Is that what's going to happen here? And then you notice that he gets a little bit farther each time in that bird story. And the revelation of why he's getting further in the story and what he's doing, and that total sinking to rock bottom, rockets just straight into the sky, into utter triumph when he busts through that thing. Yes. All the yes. Moffat, wow. Like, no bones about this at all. Not a single complaint, not a smidge. I don't know if I can say for certain that it is my favorite Doctor Who episode of all time, but it is definitely the best episode that Moffat ever wrote. At least, that's what I think. What do you think? Whatever your thoughts are, your own top 10, your thoughts on mine, whatever they are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Maybe also do all those things, that have to happen. The likes, the subscribes, Twitter follows, podcast listens, Patreon support, maybe. All links for all that stuff is down in the description. So until next time, this council is adjourned.